Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of A Message of Hope. And today I have the honor to have Lori Carpenos again with us. Thank you, Lori, for agreeing to come back, but actually volunteering to come back to talk to us and share more of your insights on when we know the 3P or inside out or subtractive psychology, depending on what to call it. All it is, it helps so much in navigating whatever shows up in our life. So thank you, Laurie.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for doing this. It's a really good program for so many people. I was thinking, Martine, that it's so easy to get caught up in gloom and doom, right? The rabbit hole of gloom and doom with so much going on in the world. And I know that we have both seen that it works out so much better for us when we're looking in the direction of hope. Because when we're looking, and it's a choice, it's so easy to get caught up in what's wrong with the world and what's going on and scare ourselves half to death. It's really easy to go down that path. But for what purpose? It doesn't serve a purpose. It's not productive. It certainly doesn't help our state of mind. It doesn't help the people we talk with except to rile them up. So I really love this idea of looking in the direction of hope. And I have found personally that when I look in that direction, I see more. More comes to mind, or of positivity, and I notice more hopefulness in the world. Just the other day, which I had this wonderful conversation with a client who was talking about his work culture and what's going on at work. And all of a sudden he said, and this was during the beginning of the Black Lives Matter movement, he said, to heck with affirmative action. And I didn't know what was going to come next, He said, what I realized, and he also prefaced this by saying, he's been in a quieter state of mind because of sheltering at home. He's able to work from home. So he has more time to look within himself, to get more introspective. And he said it occurred to him that he wants his next hire to be someone, new, freshly out of school, for new ideas, new directions. And he would like it to be a female because he realized that there are a bunch of middle-aged white men that are working together in his department. And he would really like it to be a Black young woman, freshly out of school, for a number of reasons. He said, because of diversity, different ways of looking at things, because he wants to give people opportunity, like he was given opportunity by his boss, and had always felt so grateful. And I know this man is really dedicated to his work. He'll, work reasonably, like he has a family, so he knows he has to balance work and personal life, but he's really dedicated to doing the best job he can. And listening to him, I realized, that really came out of his appreciation for being given an opportunity. He was pretty green when he first came on board. He really didn't have all the qualifications maybe, but the boss saw something in him. So he had the ability to climb up, the ranks, and he now manages several people. So I just thought, how hopeful is that for him to realize that this is beyond affirmative action. It's one thing to designate a ruling or procedures that somebody has to follow at work. It's a whole other thing to have an insight into the possibility of, yes, let's diversify. We have so much to learn from one another, and it can only assist our organization. If it's affirmative action, then, but I also want to say that, when that ruling came into place, that was the best people saw to do, to make it a rule that you have to hire a certain percentage of other cultures and backgrounds. And if something is a procedure, it's not coming from the insight a person has. And that creates a world of difference. I could see that people who hired according to affirmative action could maybe be resentful if they saw somebody who had a better skill set or more qualifications, but no, they had to hire this person because they fit this picture. And yet to open up to the possibility of, yes, I want people of diversity on my workforce. It comes at it from a whole different angle, and one of appreciation. So, that was just something I thought was so good to hear. And that's what we're in the business of, you might say, you and I, right? That we just really want to help people to have greater insight that will help them in their, not just their work lives, but their personal lives, will help them in their relationships. And insight, seeing something within ourselves in the direction of hope and possibility is it's a game changer. It's a whole different way of looking at things. So I'm glad.
Beautiful. Yeah. And it is awful. And that person, when she's hired, she will be welcome.
Will be welcome.
In a new way, as if it's like the positive action. It won't be as welcoming. Now you got your position because, but now it will be like a nice welcome as well. So
exactly.
That's a beautiful hope, especially in the United States. We need that these days. So, yeah.
I know. Yeah, there's so much going on here now. And it's just really easy for people to get caught up in the divide, and, people see things so differently, what's right and what's wrong. I actually had an email exchange with my accountant the other day. He's been my accountant for years, and our politics are very, very different. So I know that I avoid going there, but it's easy to, kind of get hooked in, I guess. And I was so proud of myself, really, that in my responses to him, that I wasn't bothered like I had been in the past. And I know it had a lot to do with the fact that I was listening for how we actually see alike. As long as I had it in my mind, oh my gosh, we are seeing this like not even apples and oranges. They're not even the same fruit. They're not even in the same category of fruit. It's like, poultry and apples. It's just, as long as I'm seeing it as so radically different, that's going to charge me up. But if I'm looking for commonality, and as I'm saying this, I didn't even realize it, but I heard Elsie Spittle at the UK conference a year ago now, and she was talking about that very thing, that when you look for, so it must have registered, because I found that not trying to look for commonality. It's just what happened. I knew that I didn't want to get into something contentious. So I just listened to what he had to say. And I was able to say, you know, we really don't see things that differently. We both happen to care about humanity. That's the most important thing. So yeah, yeah, I just feel very, very fortunate. I don't know that I would ever come to these realizations had I not had the mentors I've had in life, and you've had wonderful mentors as well. And you know, it's a matter of gratitude, being so grateful that, and knowing that there's a lot I'm not seeing. You know, there's lots to come because every year I see more and more. So I know that, you know, I don't think you ever reach a pinnacle of insight and growth and development, but it's exciting to know that there's something more around the bend that I haven't seen yet. It's still tucked away in my blind spot somewhere.
As you were talking about your accountant, I used to force to see people, not to see people, the connection between people. So I have to be present for the other person, right? Let's visualize. Like I'm shit at visualization. Oh, let's feel a connection, right? And force it. And one day I heard Gabriella say, no, when I'm with a client, I see the divine in front of me. And I said, oh yeah, I have to force it, don't force that, right? And then I realized that I don't have to force it. It's built in.
Yeah, yeah.
It is built in.
Yeah.
I didn't have to visualize or force it or see it or feel it, or it's built in if I don't interfere.
If we don't interfere, it's just part of our design. Yeah. It's really our default setting because we're love. we come from loving energy, and that's who we are. And so if we get out of the way of that, then connection happens automatically. I love that. You said, you know, there's no need to, well, it wouldn't even be good to force it. Because like the affirmative action discussion, right? Anything that's forced, you're going to feel, it's not going to feel right. And that creates problems down the road. Yeah. So I love that. Yeah. Just seeing another human being who just sees the world differently or thinks differently, but we're all coming from the same source. And we all have the capacity to perceive and think what we think. Can't get away from that.
We can always see deeper. No, that's the beauty. Like even I think Sid said, no, you can always see deeper. There's more level on top of his, right? And like this weekend, I was hearing Jan and Chip Chapman, and I heard their stories like many times, right? But Saturday, I heard something different.
Oh, can you say more about that? You know, their story is in our book, The Secret of Love. So, yeah, what is your...
Like, she's the one who met Sid. So for people that don't know, Sidney Banks was an enlightened man. And what we're sharing, like I said, we talk about this understanding, the three principles of inside out, subjective psychology, is all stem from that one man and his experience. And Jan was the first person who met Sid and had a profound impact on her. And when she came back home, her and her husband, they were having difficulties at the time. But she was not reacting the same way because she has seen something, right? And at first, like all good 3P people at the beginning, um, trying to convince him to see the world through, to what she's seen. And we're all guilty of that to another, I think. And one day she realized
First, right?
that he didn't need to change. He didn't need to see it her way. And by the way, folks, I'm not selling the punchline here. He's a well-known 3D teacher, so he did see the light shortly after that. But
right.
She realized that he didn't need to change for her to be okay.
Yeah. Or even for her to be happy.
To be happy.
Even if he stayed angry and miserable and depressed and all of those things, she could still be happy. I know. Isn't that something, right? That's a huge insight.
So we could be happy and be who we are. And be the change that we want to know without preaching.
Yeah. Yeah.
And anyway, so I saw it differently, that something clicked at that time. Or the other times that I heard the story, that I don't need to change the people around me.
Right.
So that I'm trying, they're not even interested. My family's not totally not interested. They never asked me once why I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning. But it's not because I'm the 5 o'clock club. It's not what I meant. It was a training that from the UK, and I had to be online at 4:30 in the morning. I'm not part of the 5 o'clock club.
Dedication.
Yeah. So, but yes, that time something clicked even more deeply. And yeah, so we can always look more deeply into.
Oh, it's so true. You know, it's easy to say, yeah, that's a good idea. I understand that. That my happiness is not dependent on somebody else changing, not even my partner changing, not even my children changing. But really seeing that is wow, and that takes you out of the judgment and criticism that the other person feels. And by golly, the other person changes. Right? It's miraculous. I have a lot of stories about that, actually, how that happens. And when you take your eyeballs off of, if only he'd realize that he's doing this, or even, somebody who's drinking to excess. I mean, that's hard to live with. It's really hard to live with. But if you take care of yourself, and that might mean living apart from that person, whatever it takes for you to take care of yourself is going to help the other person. People do not change from somebody telling them to change, from somebody forcing them to change, from someone or trying to force them to change. We can't force somebody to change. Change is an inside-out deal. They've got to see it themselves. And they're more apt to have an insight if their partner is sheltering on their own, so to speak, or taking care of themselves and maintaining a beautiful state of mind as much as possible. Because that's where all good things unfold. It's a fact. It's factual that people in good states of mind, they're more creative. They see how to solutions to problems. They stay out of problems. You know, when you look in that direction, you see it. You see how that works in all people. So, wow, I'm so glad that yeah. Isn't it interesting? We could hear somebody's story they've told their story, not just in The Secret of Love book, but in conferences. And I know each time you see it a little deeper. And it registers a little more for you. I don't know how to put it into words, but the deeper we see something, the more it unfolds for us. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Lori, for your time and for agreeing to do this and sharing the good news with everyone. Thank you, Lori.
So much fun, Martine. Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay.